I froze when it happened, salt in the air, waves whispering secrets, the sun burning low like it knew something I didn't. 1 second I was laughing, toes buried in warm sand, and the next my boss lowered herself onto my lap as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Her voice barely moved her lips when she said, "Stay still. My ex is watching." In that instant, the beach disappeared. My heart slammed, my breath caught, and I realized this wasn't just about pretending. It was about everything we'd both been running from, and whatever happened next would change us forever. I had taken this job thinking it would be simple, organize schedules, handle calls, keep my head down. She was powerful, admired, untouchable. Everyone in the office talked about her confidence, but no one talked about the loneliness that followed her like a shadow. When she invited a few of us to the beach for a team reset, I didn't expect much beyond awkward small talk and forced smiles. Yet there she was, laughing more freely than I'd ever seen her, hair loose, eyes softer, almost human. When her ex showed up uninvited, all that ease shattered. I saw it in the way her shoulders stiffened, in the way her eyes searched for an escape, and somehow landed on me. People around us probably thought it was a joke, a careless moment. They couldn't feel the tension in her body or the tremor in her breath. She leaned closer, whispering about how controlling he used to be, how he hated seeing her happy unless it was because of him. I listened, not as an employee, but as a person who knew what it felt like to be underestimated, to be told your place. My hands rested uselessly at my sides, afraid to move, afraid to cross a line that already felt blurred. When her ex finally walked away, she didn't move right away. Instead, she stayed there, as if the safety she'd borrowed from me was something she wasn't ready to give back. Later that night, the hook that kept pulling me forward tightened. She found me alone near the shore and apologized, but her apology wasn't for sitting on my lap, it was for never letting anyone see her vulnerable side. She admitted she was tired of being strong all the time, tired of winning at work and losing everywhere else. I wanted to tell her she didn't have to carry everything alone, but fear kept my words locked inside. She smiled sadly and walked away, leaving me staring at the dark water, knowing that something unfinished now lived between us. The next morning, everything felt different. The sun rose brighter, conversations felt heavier, and every glance between us carried questions we weren't brave enough to ask. Back at work, she returned to being the boss, but cracks showed. Deadlines slipped. Meetings ran long. One evening, she finally asked me to stay late. That was the hook of the second chapter, the moment that pulled me in again, because this time, she wasn't asking me to pretend. She talked about her past without filters, about how love had once been used as leverage against her, how she promised herself never to feel small again. I shared my own fears, how I'd always lived quietly, believing my dreams were too modest to matter. We weren't fixing each other, we were finally listening. The challenge wasn't the ex or office gossip, it was deciding whether honesty was worth the risk. When rumors started spreading about us, she faced them head-on, making it clear that respect mattered more than appearances. She set boundaries at work and, for the first time, boundaries in her heart. In the end, nothing dramatic happened on that beach except two people realizing they deserved more than fear. We didn't rush into labels or grand promises. We chose courage instead. She learned that strength doesn't disappear when you sit down and rest, it grows when you let someone sit beside you. I learned that even the quietest people can become someone else's safe place. And the inspiring truth we carried forward was simple but powerful. Sometimes staying still in one unexpected moment is what finally allows your life to move forward. The moment that hooks you again comes quietly, not loudly, because sometimes the most powerful turns in life arrive without warning. That evening, when the office lights were dim and everyone else had gone home, she stood by the window staring at the city like it might answer questions she was too afraid to ask. Without turning around, she said my name, not as a boss, not as someone in control, but as a woman exhausted from pretending. At the beach, she whispered, "You didn't move," and for the first time in years, neither did my fear. Those words pulled me in deeper than any dramatic confession ever could. She finally faced me, eyes honest, voice steady but fragile, and admitted that sitting on my lap wasn't about her ex at all, it was about survival. About needing one moment where she didn't feel hunted by the past or trapped by expectations. I told her how that moment changed me too, how it made me realize I'd spent my life staying invisible, believing being quiet meant being safe. We both laughed softly at the irony, two people hiding in plain sight, finally seeing each other. The challenge came fast after that. Office rumors surfaced, sharp and unfair, trying to turn something human into something scandalous. Instead of running, she did something brave. She addressed it openly, drew clear boundaries, and protected both our dignity and our jobs. Watching her choose honesty over fear taught me something I'd never learned before, that courage doesn't always shout, sometimes it simply stands firm. Weeks later, we met again at the same beach, not to pretend, not to hide. This time, she sat beside me, not on my lap, smiling freely as the waves rolled in. "I don't need to borrow strength anymore," she said. "I'm learning to share it." And in that moment, I understood the lesson that stayed with me long after the sand washed away our footprints. Healing doesn't come from dramatic escapes or perfect endings, it comes from choosing respect, truth, and self-worth, even when it's uncomfortable. Sometimes, the moment you stayed still becomes the moment you finally move forward. The hook for the final turn didn't arrive with noise or drama, it arrived with a choice. One ordinary morning, she stood at my desk holding a resignation letter that wasn't mine. It was hers. Her voice was calm, but her hands trembled as she said, "I spent my whole life fighting to stay on top, and I forgot to ask myself why." That single sentence pulled me in harder than anything before, because this time, it wasn't about the past watching us, it was about the future waiting. She didn't leave because of rumors or fear. She left because she wanted a life where she didn't have to armor her heart every morning. Watching her walk out of that office for the last time, I realized how much she had changed, and how much I had too. I had found my voice. I asked for growth, took risks I once avoided, and stopped believing I was only meant to support other people's dreams. We didn't cling to each other out of need. We chose to walk forward separately, stronger, honest, unafraid. Months later, we crossed paths again by chance, same beach, different people. She smiled, peaceful, no shadows in her eyes. We talked like equals, like two souls who once shared a moment that quietly saved them both. As we said goodbye, she turned and said, "That day you stayed still, you reminded me I was allowed to pause." And as I watched her disappear into the crowd, I understood the final truth this story leaves behind. Sometimes you're placed in someone's life not to stay forever, but to help them remember who they are. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is let go, knowing that one small moment of courage can echo for a lifetime.